One is you can't vote on a contract that you have a direct financial interest in. None of you could vote to employ your wife as a teacher. You're going to get money out of that. It's going to go into your checking account at home, something like that. Number two, you can't vote on a contract. That first one. This board couldn't hire one of your spouses, even if you weren't here and recused yourself. Right. You can't do it. This board can't do anything that puts money in any one of your pockets, period. Right. My second thing, you individually cannot vote on anything that benefits one of your children. Okay? I'm talking about a child that lives in the house with you that is financially dependent upon you. Because it's hard to separate. Now, if it's a grown child that is financially independent on their own, that's a different thing. But it's inside the house, because that, again, that benefits you directly. Okay? Now, you can recuse yourself from that vote if you choose to or not. But I mean, you wasn't the same with spouse. Finally, the third thing, and this is where this originates. No public servant, be it a city alderman, trustee, anybody, is supposed to do anything that, although in fact we all know is legit and there's nothing wrong with it and it is entirely appropriate and the best decision, that you're not, even so, if you could say, looking at these members of the public, if one of them out there would reasonably say, that guy shouldn't vote on that because I bet, well, let me just use Leonard examples. If somebody were sitting in the audience of the city council and said, Leonard Karuba is voting on that.
On what? Tell me what.
Leonard Karuba is voting for John Smith to be the next school board trustee.
Okay.
Because he's gonna make John Smith make a deal to give Eloise a raise when he gets on school board.
I got it. But how many times does that come up in a whole entire year?
It doesn't come up, but the point is, if some member of the public gets it in their mind that Leonard is in a position to do something wrong, you got to ask yourself, is there an appearance of an impropriety? Does it create suspicion in the public, or does it cause a loss of public trust? I don't mean is there an actual thing done wrong. I mean, is he in a position where the public might suspect something's done wrong? If so, then what the Ethics Commission says is you should recuse yourself so nobody out there could even suspect you did something. You might be in a position to be able to do something wrong.
Okay, so once a year, Leonard does not get to vote on an appointment of a school board member. I mean, how does that not let him do his job?
Well, see, these things, this gray area that I told you about, if I were against what you were doing, I might say, you got an ethics problem. Now, you really ought not vote on that. If I was for it, I might say, man, you don't have an ethics problem. That's crazy. Go ahead and vote on that. These kinds of issues are best and most difficult, but they're best decided by the individual. You know yourself best if what you're going to do might create an appearance of impropriety among some of these folks. If you in your heart know that you might, then don't do it. If you say no one could reasonably question what I'm doing, then don't worry about it. If Leonard made the decision that he felt like people in the community might suspect his actions because of his wife's connection, then those two made that decision. I mean, I would not bring to presume to tell him it was wrong. I mean, I've been one of the, I know Leonard and I know Eloise and I know the people here. I'd be one of the ones in the community that would have said it would be impossible for him to do that, number one. And number two, he's just not that kind of guy.
Exactly,
he won't do it.
Exactly.
But I don't know everybody in the community. Somebody out here might say, no, I don't want that. So they erred on the side of caution.
She's going to quit her job over this.
Yes. All I can say is they erred on the side of caution, which
no, you can refuse her resignation.
That's what the Ethics Commission says to do. The Ethics Commission says, if anybody might think that you have the ability to do something wrong, recuse yourself so they couldn't think that. And that's really going a long way out there, but that's why they did it.
Now let me ask you a question, since we already in the actual discussion. What if the board votes not to accept the resignation?
She's at will authority of her will and my will.
Yes, she doesn't.
Even though, that's what I'm saying, it was brought for us for approval. If we decide not to, then what?
She's still wrong. The only time that has an effect is on a certified employee. If a certified employee asks to resign and you don't accept it,
then.
They don't have to work, but they can't get a contract anywhere else. You know, with a non-certified person, it's just a courtesy as much as
Okay,
anything.
gotcha.
Well, I know we're a little town and everything, but I just don't like this.
I understand.
Okay, our ready vote?
That's not the end of it. There's plenty more to come.
Yeah. Our ready vote? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Based on what...
Reservations.
With reservation. Based on what we've just discussed, and I have some questions that I would like to ask in executive session, so therefore, I recommend that we skip item B and move to item C. Does anybody have a hard part with that?
For what reason?
I would like to take an executive session.
No, I don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that? Okay. Then I'll ask the question.
Well, the procedure, if you want to, is if a member wants to discuss a subject in executive session. Remember, we go through this fiction. We always vote once and then we vote again. We vote to consider and then we vote to go in. I say it's a fiction because we don't go through all of it, but this may be an opportunity. The first vote to consider going into executive session, we don't know what it is you want to talk about, but if you have to talk about it in front of everybody before we go into executive session, what's the point, right? So you have the right to close the session to discuss the topic and not discuss the merits of it, but say, here's what I want to talk about.
Right.
And then when you finish that, you come out and you vote. Do we go into executive session or do we not? And so you have the right to do that, to request a closed session to discuss the subject if you want to.
And that is what I would recommend.
So you want to make a motion to recommend going into executive session?
To close the session to determine whether or not there's a need for executive session. I know this is particular. I didn't write this law. I'm just trying to out.
Okay.
You can't make the motion, you have to pass the gavel to make the motion, so.
No, what you mean I can't make the motion?
The president can't make the motion, he has to pass the gavel to make the motion.
That's right in a lot of parliamentary procedures, but we've never adopted any rules that prohibit it.
And from the studies that I had in a school board, because of the size of the board itself, that the president does not have to pass the gavel to make a motion.
I disagree, I haven't in line, but we're not.
What motion?
My motion is to consider going into executive session.
I'll make a motion to consider going into executive session.
I don't have
To actually do it, I need a first and a second out of 1 and 2, so it's not going to happen.
Consider, a motion to consider going into
All right,
executive
well,
session.
I'll second it, but to consider.
Okay. I make a motion to go into executive session.
Well, you have to.
I've got to vote on this.
Well, you have to vote on this one to consider, and if it passes, then you close the session, and you excuse yourselves, and you talk about what the subject is, not the merits, but
Right.
what the subject is. And then you come back out and vote on whether or not we're going to.
Consider executive session?
No,
And we already,
take a vote for it.
Yeah, so you have to kind of vote.
Make a motion to go into executive session. There it is.
No, it's considered, it's considered. It's already been motion second to consider, and then we'll talk about whether we should go into executive session, but we have to go in the back to talk about it. So, ask for the vote.
vote.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
That is,
Yeah, let's go.
okay. Yeah, I understand. I truly understand.